when I'm running ahead to the next, I think it begs the question, are you stewarding where you are well? Are you handling that well? And if I'm not, then the audacity for me to keep buying for more. And so, but nothing is being withheld. Like, he is good. The things he's given is good. And it would do me well to be able to say that I've appreciated what I've been given. Yeah. But I feel like we live in a world that does not promote that. Contentment is not the thing that everybody, oh, you're content, that's great. It's do more, be better, team no sleep. I woke up at 5 a.m. to grind it. Like, that's great. And I think in the same manner, there's a time for that as well. But we don't have to live there. But the world has told us that that's where we need to be. And that's the speed at which we need to go. And that's not honest or realistic.
Welcome to the She Inspires podcast. I'm Dr. Jade. I'm your host. I am a board-certified family medicine physician, wellness and weight loss specialist. I'm owner of the membership medical practice in Las Vegas, Inspire Primary Care, and I am excited for our first video components, and we haven't had an interview in a while, and we are in for a treat today. So I'm so excited. Welcome to the She Inspires podcast. Those who are new to the She Inspires fam, we are chatting about gratitude today, about self-care, emotional wellness, and there is nobody better that I could have this conversation with than one of my closest girlfriends who is an absolute boss, in addition to being one of the most amazing human beings. Rosie Harris, welcome to the She Inspires podcast.
Thanks, sis.
Oh my goodness.
Hey ladies, I'm excited to be here.
Oh,
thank
okay.
you so much.
I'm all excited. This
I know,
is
I'm
my
like...
girl. But, before we jump into it, tell the audience, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so like Jade mentioned, I'm Rosie Harris. I am a counselor by trade. I love all things mental health. Incredibly passionate about that, but I specifically serve as the executive director at Refuge for Women, and we serve women who are exiting the sex industry, including women who've been sex trafficked. And so give me all things mental health trauma, and let's try to create some order.
Oh my goodness. Okay. This is perfect. The fact that you're just a dope friend, a dope human being, in addition to a mental health background. Yeah. I think this is a conversation I've been excited to have, but also scared to have because, entrepreneurship has its ups, its downs, but you recently were interviewed on a podcast called Tearing Up My Heart. Yeah. And it was an amazing podcast. Highly recommend listening to the interview. But when you all were talking about contentment and just emotional wellness, I was like, I want to go deeper. I want to have you on the podcast because I've been wanting to touch on emotional and mental wellness in a way where I can be transparent, but it just feels, natural too.
Absolutely.
So as we transition into that, I've been really in this space of gratitude and self-reflection and trying to take care of my emotional wellness. What is that looking like for you in this season when you're balancing motherhood, wifehood, not necessarily entrepreneurship, but being an executive of a major company? Yeah. How are you doing self-care and gratitude? Like, what is that looking for you in this season of life?
All the hoods, right?
We are in the hood.
I think
y'all are going to get the snorts today.
You're definitely going to get the snorts today. I think it is crucial for me to be reminded that everything has a season. So when I think of motherhood and parenting and being a wife and my husband's positioning and relationships and my job, I really am reminded that everything has a season. But more than that, it's important for me to remember that every season is good and that the one that I'm in is good. Like, I don't have to vie for my favorite seasons from the past or the one that's to come. Like, where I am currently, this is good. The Lord called it good. He'll use it for good. And so I think I have to look at all the things from that vantage point. Yeah. Where I am in parenting and being a wife and my job, like, it's all good and it's all useful. Yeah. And so that helps me to remain in the moment and to be grateful for every season that life brings.
Yeah, and I've had challenges with this in this season. I wasn't expecting it, honestly, because, we think we have our checklist of what we want in life. And by God's grace, he's blessed me with my dream husband and my children who are wonderful, and the home and the cars and the career that I dreamed of since I was a child. And now I wanted to be an entrepreneur and have my own business. And he has blessed me. It's been a hard journey. It's been a lot of setbacks, but he has really blessed me. And now I'm in this season of answered prayers. And I guess I just expected it to feel, I don't know, warm, fuzzy, tingly. But instead, I feel like I've been on this long journey of striving and overachieving and requiring the field of medicine, requiring perfectionism and fake it till you make it.
Yes.
And now I'm here in this season of like, oh, I don't have to pretend. I don't have to pretend I have it all together. I now have to unlearn some of these unhealthy habits that I had in this field of medicine. And now I'm like, wait, it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to have bad days. And it's okay to show vulnerability and not just compartmentalize. But these are like new skills I'm having to learn in this season. And so I know you work with a lot of professionals as well. And not in addition to for yourself, right? How you do this. But what things would you recommend to women, and especially professional women who are balancing many hats and striving for their own personal goals? What advice do you have? Loaded question.
It is loaded, but I think it's a nuanced question, but it's a good one. I personally feel like so much of discontentment happens when we feel like we are missing out on something, like something is being withheld from us. I personally don't believe that is true. I'm a Christian, and so I live under the vantage point that God is good. All things are ordained by him. And if he is good, then that means where he has me is good as well. And so I'm not missing out on something. Like he isn't withholding something good from me and dangling it in front of me and then or giving it to someone else, but not to me. And so I think I have to be reminded that nothing is being withheld, that for everything there is a season, and that it would do me well to be all here while I'm here. Because the last thing that I want to do is move ahead haphazardly and then look back and feel like I squandered that season, or I did not steward that well, or there were things I could have done better, or I could have been more in the moment with parenting, or a more present wife, or any of those things. And so when I'm running ahead to the next, I think it begs the question, are you stewarding where you are well? Are you handling that well? And if I'm not, then the audacity for me to keep vying for more. And so but nothing is being withheld. Like, he is good. The things he's given is good. And it would do me well to be able to say that I've appreciated what I've been given. Yeah. But I feel like we live in a world that does not promote that. Contentment is not the thing that everybody, oh, you're content, that's great. It's do more, be better, team no sleep. I woke up at 5 a.m. to grind. And like, that's great. And I think in the same manner, there's a time for that as well. But we don't have to live there. But the world has told us that that's where we need to be. And that's the speed at which we need to go. And that's not honest or realistic.
And it's almost like contentment is equivalent to being complacent.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's like, oh, you just content? You're not striving for nothing. No, what are your goals? What are your resolutions? And, and I even came into this new year like, oh, the year of elevation. And, let me get my new goals. Let me look at Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And I just felt this immense amount of pressure. Yeah. And it took coming to the end of Q1 and being like, I've put way too much pressure on myself. I'm looking at the projections and the growth and how to scale, and I'm not able to really enjoy the right now and really being faithful over the few. I mean, when we look at the big scale of things, the season we're in is the few, because God is going to have more. He's going to increase and bless us even more abundantly. Yeah. Before, our future, we don't know what that holds. So I'm like, I'm not enjoying this season the way I should. And I'm asking for more, but look at all God has blessed you with right here, right now. Absolutely. And so, you mentioned on that podcast episode, you mentioned some gems. I wrote some of the things down you said, okay? Because I was like, yes, friend, you are dropping them. Okay. So it was really speaking to my serial entrepreneur and recovering over achiever self, for myself. And so you said, I'm going to spit some of the quotes you said, okay? You said, the grass is greener where I am now. I thought that was so dope. The grass is green where I am now. Yeah. Then you said, slow down and enjoy the scenic route. Like who thinks of that, right? Like who's enjoying the scenic route? We are like, no ma'am. Like we want to get there now.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
and then
yes.
you said, be content with the present and know you are enough. So tell me more about some of those quotes. Cause I just I was in my car listening to that podcast episode and I was like typing down notes, trying not to, I was like,
she was being safe driver.
I was not being the safest driver, but I was like, I got to write these down. My friend is killing it. And so, tell me about some of those. Like, how did you get to that mindset? Cause a lot of this is in the mind.
For sure.
And I talk a lot on the podcast about mindset shifts.
Yeah.
When it comes to health and wellness in particular. But when we talk about the emotional wellness, I'm like, Jay, you need some mindset shifts.
Yeah.
So how did you get to that? Man, the grass is green now.
For sure. I think we live in the age of technology, obviously. And then we think about social media, and there are so many benefits to it. But there are also so many things that are like, ooh, sis, like social media can be a really hard place. And so everyone is displaying their highlight reels. So we get on social media and we like, oh my gosh, they got a new car or a new house. They're on vacation again. Or dag, her shoes. Okay, handbag. All of these things. But that's their highlight reel. They're not uploading those moments where they struggled to get out of bed, or where they had an argument with their spouse, or they realized that finances were a little bit tighter that month. And so when we look at that, you're looking at someone's highlight reel, literally the moments that are their favorite that they want to show the world.
Right.
But that highlight reel isn't reality. So when I think about the grass being green where I am and all like enjoying the scenic route, the reality is like, this is my journey. And so when I think of my life, I know the whole of it, right? Someone else can project what they would like. And so when I look at my life, it can be like, man, okay, maybe I don't have as much going on, or maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I'm not a go-getter like the world says, when really I'm gauging not just my highlight reel, but the everyday. And so because I know my everyday, it's really easy for me to be down and out compared to somebody else's, but I have a highlight reel as well.
Yeah.
But if that's what I choose to display, then somebody could look at my life too and say the exact same thing. But I really feel like the reality is, if we water our grass, then it can be green as well. Like, sure, theirs is green, but their grass being green doesn't mean mine isn't. Like, two things can't be true.
Right.
I can admit that Jade's grass is green, baby, and the flowers, loving it. But that doesn't mean that mine isn't. That doesn't mean that my line doesn't also look well. And so much of it is in the like position of my heart. Am I going to choose to fixate on my neighbor's yard and covet all the things that they have, and in the meantime let my own flowers dry up and my grass shrivel because I'm so fixated on your life that I haven't put in the due diligence in mine? And so the reality is, two things can be true. And then when we think about the scenic route, like, we have goals and aspirations, and most of us put, okay, here's A and then here's B. And it's a straight line, and we're going right there.
Yeah.
But then you insert life and red lights and all of these things, and you may have to do a detour because there's an accident ahead, or for whatever reason. And so we may have to go the scenic route, a route that we didn't necessarily anticipate taking, but a route that we do end up saying, man, I saw some sweet stuff along the way. Or the route that it took me produced in me something that wouldn't have been true had I not had to go that way.
Yeah.
And so we mature that way. We learn. I think that's the route that produces character.
Yes,
it
does.
shows in us, like, when we're forced to wait and have to endure or persevere under hardships, or when integrity has to like line up with what you say. Like, those are the things that's like, okay, like, that wouldn't have been true had I gotten there the route that I imagined.
Yes.
Because there would have been no roadblocks in the way. And we look at those roadblocks as bad things, when really they could be the things that produce in us the thing we need, so that when we get there, we're like, okay, not only are we here, but we're able to stay here because I'm a more mature me than I would have been.
Absolutely. And my medical journey was definitely the scenic route. Like, I wanted to just go straight through and ace it and kill it and be this young doctor. I mean, people, I think I'm still a young doctor. However.
And fly.
Thank you, sis. But I would have been a younger doctor had I not had hardships and delays along the journey. And I remember just such a humbling journey where I'm like, Lord, I am humiliated. I am embarrassed. Like, everyone knows I'm failing. Everyone knows I have to repeat a year of medical school. Everyone knows I got a low score on the MCAT and didn't get straight in. Like, all of these things, and we're looking at other people's grass like, man, their family, or they come from a family of doctors and I don't. Oh my gosh, their dad told them exactly who to connect with, and they're having dinner with the attendings, and I'm not, and it's just I needed those hardships, and now I can look back and reflect on them and be like, man, the hardships really humbled me, where now I can be in a season where I am in abundance, and it's not going to my head, and it's not, I can really handle it with grace and have compassion for others behind me that are struggling on the journey, where I can be like, stick in there, hang in there, and really share those difficult things. If I just told them, girl, just open the book and study and you'll be good, then there would be the real, like, I had to really endure some ugly things.
Yeah. And you wouldn't be saying it because it's experiential.
Exactly.
Like, you've lived this, and now you're able to say, no, hang in there for real.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful part about it, is that we've experienced some things. And so now when we're given knowledge or wisdom, you're not doing it flippantly. You're giving it, and you know it to be true because you were there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you touched on social media, because I recently I'm transitioning back into social media. Y'all know, okay, if you're on Instagram, join the fam at Dr. Jade MD, right? And if you're in Las Vegas, at Inspire Primary Care, right? But I love social media for so many reasons. I like the connections. I like that I can, push a button from my phone and grow my business. I like the people I have met. Like, I've met some incredible people through social media, and now we have developed friendships, and I'm like, wow, you're dope on the socials and off, and I love when people meet me and they're like you are on your page. But with that being said, I do struggle with being authentic and not making it sound like it's just pretty pictures and perfect marriage and perfect children and perfect practice, because that is not the case. Highlighting the beautiful moments, because I love to highlight beautiful moments and be an inspiration. However, I do love that we're having this type of conversation where I can reflect on, man, this has been a challenging season, and this has been a season of discomfort and of growing pains. And there are so many more things going on behind the scenes that aren't on the timeline.
Absolutely.
And so you said in your last interview that social media can be a breeding ground for comparison.
Absolutely.
And so how do you use social media in a healthy way?
Yeah. Ooh, I think the people who use it healthiest are the people who know when to pull away. I think there's wisdom in knowing, like, okay, this went from me perusing my favorite things to every time I see something I don't have, I can't hit the heart button because I'm jealous, or I'm leaving a comment, but it's like, yeah, okay, I'm cheering you on and like through the message, but inwardly I'm like, okay, whatever, let me keep going, but let me do it anyway. And so I feel like the people who know themselves best and who are introspective enough to know that, like, hey, this has shifted from something that I'm able to do for enjoyment in between a break or whatever to something that you're going on and you're looking at this person's page because, man, she got this and I still don't. And it is great. It's a great resource for building businesses and clientele and showing your craft and uniting with people that you haven't seen in forever. But it can simultaneously be a really dangerous place because it is the highlight reel. Yeah. And naturally, we all look at where we are and we look at our peers, and if at one point we were on level playing field and maybe you've exceeded me in some way or gotten to your arrival point faster, then the human part of me is like, okay, Ro. Okay, like, how do I not feel away? And so for me, I need to know when I need to pull back. There are moments and seasons in which don't go to IG. Yeah. Just delete them. Yeah. Delete them for a little bit, because what I don't like is when because I'm a girl's girl. I'm a like, you killing it, you better, I see you to death.
Right.
And if there's ever a season in which I can't do that for another woman because of something happening in my life, then that's when I need to pull away.
Yeah.
Because I'm turning into a version of myself that I don't like.
Yeah.
And that's hard for me to look at. And so I think it's wise to know when you need to do just that. You can use it for the good things. Like, use it for your craft or to show things and all those things. But if at any point that gets to a point where you're seeing something in yourself that just isn't favorable, then I think wisdom would say, pull away and be okay with that. Like, that's not bad. It doesn't mean you failed, but it does mean I need to do some work. I need to do some hard work that needs to happen offline. And honestly, nobody will know, sis, unless you like, I don't know, got 500,000 fans. But girl, I got like 1,200. They don't know when I'm not posting. And so it is easy to compare. It is. We live in a world that is competitive by nature, and I'm competitive, girl.
Yes.
You beat me. Listen, Jade didn't beat me.
Y'all have not seen our board
quite
game
a few
night.
Games. And the competitor in me is like, I lost. And I'm joking then, but I think about that in everyday life. And I'm like, I don't do well when I feel like I'm not doing something well or I'm not succeeding in something. And so if I can cheer my girls on or other people on that even I don't know because I'm so busy comparing my life to theirs, then wisdom would say, pull away for a second. Because you're not using this for what it could be.
Absolutely. And I found for myself when I was doing my social media fast and now transitioning back in and trying to restructure how I'm utilizing it, I found that it wasn't so much for me in that season being able to celebrate others. I was still able to naturally do that. But I found that I really started developing habits of not being present. And it was like, okay, I'm a business owner. And one of the major ways we grow our business is through social media. But I just felt this pressure of sticking to my content schedule. And if I miss a day, then, oh my gosh, did I not get new patients today because I didn't post a reel?
Sure.
And what do I make? Okay, well, at least post your workout, something. Like, do something, girl. You know, and it was just like, it just didn't feel good to feel like I had to stick to this regimen and this schedule or I'm failing I'm falling behind or the business isn't growing. And I was like, okay, no, we need to turn it off, turn the notifications off, get closer to God, draw closer to God. And then as we transition back in, let's actually take notice to how we're using this to restructure the patterns and restructure the habits. So for me, I'm just like, okay, this feels so much better to come back and not feel so rigid and stressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's reality. But I also think your women need to see, like, okay, Dr. J didn't post today. But that's okay because it reminds us that, yes, you're Dr. Jade, and yes, there's an image in businesses, with the S, because sis got businesses. But, like, you're human.
Yeah.
And it's okay for every day not to be the perfect day. Like, I feel like people appreciate authenticity. They appreciate vulnerability. And so they would appreciate seeing, like, yes, sis, I'm killing it. But yesterday was not the day.
Right.
And it was a hard one. Because that people relate to that because we all know what that's like. But it's also a reminder for us to be gracious to ourselves.
Yeah.
I feel like we quickly, or some of us quickly extend grace to other people. But when that same grace is needed for ourselves, we are hypercritical in a way that's just not helpful. And so I feel like it's okay for there to be an off day. Like it's okay that for today, if the content wasn't as high, because that's just the reality of life. And so I feel like people need to know that side of it as well.
Absolutely. And I recently we were hanging out at the house and I told you, I was like, we were talking about, do you cry? Because I had friends back in the day, I had a friend, a long-term friend, and she saw me cry like, I don't know, maybe 10 years into our friendship for the first time. And she was like, oh my God, you cry? And I was like, yes, girl, I cry. But now I'm much more comfortable being in tune with whatever emotions I have, the joy, the sad, but it is still relatively new in the big scheme of my life. It's still so I was telling you, I'm like, oh, I'm in my soft season.
Come on now.
Because I'm okay with it, but I'm learning how to be okay with it. And now that I'm really okay with those ups and downs and like just feeling what it is and trying to process it in a healthy way, I'm like, well, how do I share that with others? Because even though I'm becoming more comfortable with it, it still is very new to share with others. You know, again, back to the medical background of like, look, compartmentalize. We are literally taught to compartmentalize. Your grandma died. Okay, well, your test is in 2 hours. So compartmentalize.
And we were on the phone the other day, and I started crying about something. I'm just like, listen, but I am the crying friend of our little trio.
I told you I need like one crying friend.
I am definitely. I'm like, okay, you don't want to cry for you. I got it. What happened?
Yes.
Because and I'm like, that's okay. That's human.
Yeah. And so this transitions perfectly into my next question, because you mentioned in your last interview that there may be some seasons where you need to sit on somebody's couch. Okay. And I am in a season where I am sitting on somebody's couch, and it is really good for me. And I'm like, okay, let's talk coaching versus therapy.
Yes.
Because it was very easy for me when I transitioned into entrepreneurship to be comfortable being like, I need a coach. Like I need a CEO coach. Shout out to Coach Amber J. I'm like, yes. Let's talk about scaling. Let's talk about quarterly goals. Let's talk about how to get snatched for this photo shoot. Like, that's comfortable, right? Like, and even though coaching is uncomfortable too, because you're being stretched and there's ups and downs to entrepreneurship. So there are definitely seasons of discomfort, but I can use my logical mindset to be like, okay, what do I need to do? Bop, 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 bop.
Yeah.
So, but then when we talk about therapy, I went to a therapist in my 20s, and it was so healthy for me. It was such a needed season as I was transitioning into medical school. I really, really needed it. I was out on my own in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. My family was in Las Vegas. It was a hard season. But now I'm realizing this is a season where I really could use that as well, because there are ups and downs to this thing. And, where being a boss sounds glamorous, it ain't all glamorous. And there are and there are really, really hard aspects to it. And so I'm like, it's hard because when I thought about therapy, I'm like, man, I really don't want to go and just sit down for an hour and complain because I'm like, sis, we don't have time to complain. Right. Like, figure it out, suck it up, figure it out, make a plan, hit the goal.
Right.
And so, but I'm processing through that. I'm relearning that. Yes. And so tell me your thoughts on coaching versus therapy, how they fit, when to use them.
For sure. Yeah, when I think coaching, I think of someone trying to obtain a specific goal. So like you were saying, the practice scaling, all of those things. Like maybe you have a coach, or it could be a weight loss coach, right? Like my goal is to lose 20 pounds by summer. If that's your goal, you started a little late because the summer body needed
Summer's
to start
here, but join Inspire Primary Care. Our medical weight loss program is going to get you right by summer.
No, but like if that's your goal, and if it's like, okay, a weight loss goal, then that coach is working with you specifically on that. Like you may go over nutrition and exercise and sleep and all of these different things that play out and play a part in weight gain, weight loss, like plateauing, all of those things. And so when I think coaching, I think of there's a goal I'm trying to obtain, and I need wisdom from someone who has exceeded me or who is an expert in this to speak into it so that I am able to stay in alignment with where I'm hoping to go.
Right.
Therapy, I'm like, listen, we all have trauma. Some trauma may be big T, some lowercase. Some traumas may be I lost a parent, big T trauma. Another could be I don't know, something small. I don't want to minimize anybody's things, but maybe it's not as significant as like a major loss, right? Something life altering. But we all have traumas that we all come with. And so, and I'm the first person that's like, couch me, please. I need a couch.
Wow.
This season, something is rearing its head more often than normal. And I'm having a hard time with this. It could be, so Ricky and I have been married for 12 years. There are some seasons in which I'm like, listen, I'm a lot snappier or something. You frustrate me. And for some reason, maybe more than normal, our communication has just been off. Like we are off, communication feels off. And that may be a season where I'm like, what's happening? Like what's happening? What's the why? It could be, I don't know, the anniversary of a death. There are some things that are like, hey, it would do me well to sit down and process this in a healthy way, because the reality is you can either choose to process it healthily, or it's going to come out in unhealthy ways. And so if I don't want this to impact my parenting and my job and my friendships, then I need to talk to somebody about it who is unbiased, who has wisdom to ask hard questions and thought-provoking questions, things that I may not want to answer, but things that are like, I've never thought about that. Or that pull things from me that I need to sit with. The older we get, life is happening. Like, life doesn't stop because a tragedy or a trauma occurred. Like, it keeps going. And because that's true, we're literally trying to live every day, to work out, to parent, to eat, to sleep, to do our jobs, to be good friends. All the while, like, life is happening. And that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think we all need to know when we're in a season that's like, hey, I'm not at my best. And be okay with that. But also say, I need somebody to speak into this. But I also think in the Black community specifically, our therapy has such a negative connotation, which I think is exceptionally dangerous. Most people think if I need a therapist or a counselor, that means I'm crazy. But it doesn't. Like, you're a doctor, right? So if I told you that I had some serious ailment, you wouldn't tell me, oh, sis, go take some Tylenol.
Right.
But don't go see nobody. Because that would be foolish.
Right.
That would legitimately be foolish. And not only foolish, but it could be a detriment to my physical health. And in the same way, when we don't face life head on, when we don't attack those traumas and have those conversations when needed, then that's detrimental to our emotional health as well. And I'm like, depression, anxiety, all of these numbers are up, and they're only going to rise because our society isn't moving backwards in any way. And so it would do us well to know when something is off or when something has the propensity to be off. How can I be proactive in dealing with this? Because I see it. Like, I see the small things. How do I catch this before it has a ripple effect in my life that I'm not ready for?
Absolutely. And so many times in the primary care space, people will come to me for a medical diagnosis and I'm like, babe, this is your depression. Like, this is actually depression. And people are like, no, it's not depression. I'm just not sleeping well. It's insomnia. Or I'm just have low energy. I'm fatigued. Or no, I just been gaining weight. It must be my thyroid. Most of my patients are struggling with depression and anxiety. And it isn't talked about enough. And I think when it comes to the therapy aspects, in addition to some of the shame behind it, it could be weak behind it. Like, oh, that makes me weak. And, we are often needed to be strong. And we talked about the strong friend and all of that. And so really just having a conversation about, man, not only is it okay, but it's essential typically in some season of life, season of life. And we talk about, I love how you said big T, little T, but we all have been through a big T trauma with the pandemic and like how we all process that.
I still ain't recovered.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm like, 2019 me, please.
Yeah. And it's like, we can act like nothing happened, but we all went through a major trauma.
Absolutely.
And like, for me, I actually never sat and processed through some of my traumas from the pandemic. Like, I had a newborn at that time and I was a resident and I'm going to the hospital being called in on night shifts and coming in, and I had to completely strip and throw my clothes into the washer and go
and what
detox.
Am I taking home to my family?
What am I taking home to my infant? Well, not only will I die on the front line, but will my baby work in the ICU in the emergency room when everybody was COVID at the peak, doing CPR on somebody, they passing away, I letting their parent know, and then I go to the next room because the next person's being paged. Like, we don't have time to process that. Absolutely. It's like, just keep going. And then, okay, you get your graduation, you get your certificate, and now boom, on to the next thing. Have fun, doctor. And it's like,
never giving it the attention that it deserves.
No. And it being considered normal. Like, well, that's what you signed up for. You want to be a doctor. Congrats. And it's like, oh, that was trauma. Yeah, babe, that was trauma.
And that diminishes people's reality. Like, it's okay to pause and say, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
How did I get here? What do I do? We want to move on so fast. I'm like, wait, let's affirm that, like, the pandemic was hard.
Yeah.
Those experiences were grievous. Like, we can pause and say that before we rush on to the next.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm in my season of letting that happen. And it's like all coming rushing to me. And I love something you said. And I was like, oh no. Like, part of me was a little insulted by this comment you said. And then a little bit insulted because this is a us thing, even though you said it about yourself. And then part of me was like, okay, this is our reality. So you said that you are perfectly between the age of 20 and 50. And I
Yeah.
said, ooh, okay,
Ain't
so
that
am I. I was like, why are we doing math?
Like 20 sound cute, 50 sound
Yes. I was like,
ooh.
why are we doing math right now, though? And why is it both of us? And so,
Why is this a we thing?
why is this a we thing? And so you say you're perfectly in
Yes.
between the age of 20 and 50. And there is some wisdom that comes with that. Okay.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self, your younger self, younger Rosie?
Yeah. I would tell her that she is enough. That she is more than enough, that she doesn't have to be anything else, anyone else, that the additional pressures, whether they come from my extended family or friendships or the world, like all of these things to be, I would tell her, like, sweet girl, you are enough, and you'll learn everything you need to know in its time.
Yeah.
And so I would just validate that, sis, you are good. Like, you, not only are you enough, but his plans for you are good. And she needed to hear that.
Yeah. I would say to my younger self, enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey, because at every stage it was like, okay, we finished high school. Now it's pre-med. We finished pre-med. Now it's med. Now we finished med school. Now it's residency. We finished residency. Now we need to get board certified. It was just always the next thing. It was never truly enjoying the now and just sitting in the now, like, oh, being a med student is amazing. Being a pre-med student is so fun. No, it was none of that. It was just like, what is next? And so now I'm in this season of like, okay, I don't have to do a what is next. I don't know what that life is like.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning
like,
what
just,
that life.
I can breathe.
And not just breathe, but just enjoy not having a goal set and not being a failure if you don't have this next goal.
For sure.
And how to not strive. I don't know how to not strive, which sounds absolutely crazy when I say it out loud. But just learning that is true and sitting in that. But I would say enjoy the journey. I would tell her to enjoy the journey. And I would just assure her that it's all going to work out. In God's perfect timing.
Absolutely.
And his plan is perfect. His timing is perfect. Because I wanted it to happen faster and smoother.
Listen.
You know?
I mean, heavy on the smoother. If it happened
Heavy
a little
on the
smoother, that would
smoother.
be okay. But I think, like, with that ideology, and I think it's one that a lot of us have, and we live in a world where that's like, oh, she got the right mindset. But I feel like we forget, like, when we're praying for something and asking for something that we want so desperately, right? And then that happens, right? So whether it be getting into med school or residency or graduation, passing your exams, opening businesses, those were all prayers at one point. And in our quickness to get or to achieve the next thing, we often forget that we're living in the moments we once prayed for.
Yes.
Like, there was a season in which I prayed to be exactly where I am today. And if I'm striving for the next to the point where I forget that, then how fair is that? Like, I'm a firm believer that I'm like, listen, our praise needs to match our petitions. So the measure in which I am asking for something again and again and again and repeatedly and believing that, oh, you don't hear me, or, oh, I'm forgotten. But then it comes to pass and I'm like, oh, thank you, God.
Yeah.
Okay, so next year I need to.
Right.
And it's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You literally cried on the floor. You wept about that.
Yeah.
You wept about that. You were asking people to cover you in prayer about that. You were believing for that. And then you got there and you didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
You didn't even notice that you were living in answered prayer. And so, and I think that's important because that's the thing that I think will sustain us as we're waiting on the next moment or the next thing, when we remember that we weren't forgotten. Like, you're living in it, sis.
Yeah.
This is it. And so, yeah.
Yeah, the grass is green right now.
Absolutely.
You know, we are enough.
Absolutely.
We are striving for some gratitude and contentment. So let's wrap with this. What is some self-gratitude? What's something you're really, really grateful for in this season?
In this season, this sounds really cheesy, and it's going to sound like I'm saying this because I'm on Jade's podcast. But no, in this season, I think one of the things that I'm most grateful for are my relationships. I've been praying for a long time, like a really long time, for like-minded friendships with women who love deeply, who are girls, who love the Lord, who all of these things. And we have a little trio. So there's another friend who makes up our trio, but I've been praying for that for a long time. And so I think that is one of the things that I find myself thanking God for repeatedly in this season.
Yeah.
That I have people who share in the joys, but also ask hard questions. I was saying something to you the other day, and I was like, you think so, Jade? And she was like, no, I disagree. And I was like, oh, girl. But it was a reminder that, like, I love that we have tons of overlap and tons of similarities, but there's also differences.
Yes.
And we're not afraid to say hard things or ask questions or differ in any way. And so I think in this season, it's the women that I'm surrounded by.
Wow, that is really special. I have definitely been praying for friendships like ours. And so that is a season of answered prayer. Y'all not going to get me too emotional on this camera. Yeah. But no, definitely something I'm grateful for. I've actually transitioned to having like a gratitude box and having in my family, we have this clear box, and we got it from Amazon, and we have a little sticky pad next to it. I got it from a girlfriend on social that I follow, Alicia Nicole. She's a physician as well. And she showed this box that they do in her family, and they open the things within it that they put throughout the year around Thanksgiving time. And so I was like, oh, I need a gratitude box. So I'm glad that we're doing that. We're putting things that we're grateful for, answered prayers, just in the box throughout the year. That's been helpful. Having a gratitude list. Instead of making a to-do list at night, I started to write down 3 things I'm grateful for before bed, and then read them in the morning, and just really trying to develop a new habit of gratitude, of contentment, of the grass is green now. Like, this is truly where I'm at right now. But it's uncomfortable, to not just be like, we good.
Right.
We good. It's all good. And so I'm so thankful that we're able to have this conversation, and that there's no friend I'd want to have a conversation like this with, because you're just so easy to talk to. You're a blessing of a friend. So it's just amazing. And where can they find you on socials? Because they're going to need more of you in their life.
Yeah. Listen, I told y'all I got 1,200 friends. Come and give me 13.
Come on.
You can find me on IG at simplyhis7_. And then on Facebook, I'm just Rosie Lee Harris. But come and get all my pictures, because I just want to look fly, y'all. That really
First of all, she stays looking fly. Her fashion is impeccable. And the family, and it's not just you. You are good with getting the whole family.
Listen, I'm like,
decked
come on.
out.
I can't be
love
that mama that's like, ooh, girl. And it's like, oh, she didn't do that, baby.
Yeah, no. They are all on point. And so I'm just so inspired by you. Thank you for being a woman who inspires. And I hope y'all enjoyed this episode of the She Inspires podcast. We'll see you next time.